Good day, class. Let's begin our conversation on Chapter 10, Employee Satisfaction and Commitment. Well, the learning objectives. Understand why an employer should even care about job satisfaction and organizational commitment. Be able to identify the individual differences and the predisposition to be satisfied. Learn ways to increase employee satisfaction and commitment. Understand the methods used to measure job satisfaction. Understand why employees are absent from work and what can be done to reduce absenteeism. Understand why employees quit their jobs and what can be done to reduce turnover. So why do we want to worry about employee attitudes? By now you probably understand that attitudes oftentimes can predict behaviors. So let's clarify a couple of things real quickly before we go on further. What is job satisfaction? Well, it's the attitude employees have toward their job. Organizational commitment is the extent to which an employee identifies with and is involved with an organization. So let's look at several outcomes and how they're related to satisfaction and commitment levels. Well, the more satisfied you are, the less absenteeism. The less satisfied you are, the more absenteeism. We see similar results when it comes to commitment. Also with turnover, the intent to leave a job and actually leaving the job. You see the same there as well. So commitment and satisfaction, as you can see, are highly correlated with one another with 0.59. Organizational citizenship behavior, doing positive things for the organization, highly related to satisfaction as well as commitment. You see that satisfaction has some relationship to performance. So all in all, it's kind of obvious why organizations worry about employee attitudes. Individual differences in employee satisfaction. Important findings. We do see there's consistency across jobs, consistency across time. So a relationship exists between life satisfaction and job satisfaction. So basically, we do have individual differences suggesting that some people tend to be more satisfied than others. Why? Well, there are obviously some possible genetic predispositions. We also have looking at how one evaluates the self, looking at their level of self-esteem and self-efficacy, their degree of internal locus of control, and of course, positive effectivity or optimism as well. So all of these factors would significantly play a role in how satisfied the employee may actually be. There's also types of organizational commitment. Effective commitment, where they want to remain and cares about the organization. Continuance commitment, believe must remain with the organization due to the time and expense and effort already put in. And normative commitment, feel an obligation to remain with an organization. So effective, continuance, normative. Now, looking at satisfaction and performance correlated with other traits like your self-esteem and self-efficacy, we can see that there are some relationships here. Satisfaction and self-efficacy, your comfortableness and being able to accomplish certain types of tasks, seem to be the strongest. Satisfaction and self-efficacy. Then we have satisfaction and your sense of control, that you are in control of your environment. Looking at performance, we see the strongest correlation there is between your sense of self-worth and performance. So not exactly perfect, but the idea here is that we do see some significant relationships between core evaluations of your traits of yourself as well as things like satisfaction and performance, which again indicates that there are individual differences that may have some significant play and what level of satisfaction someone may possess. Here's a personality meta-analysis results looking at the big five traits of openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and stability. Normally, we always look at conscientiousness at first. Conscientiousness, that's what I do normally, to see where that falls. And you can look at your performance and conscientiousness, 24.24, one of the highest, 0.26 with satisfaction, and a negative 0.22 with turnover. So obviously, conscientiousness is one of the big five that says a lot about not only satisfaction but also about performance and the likelihood that they want to remain with the organization or less turnover at least. So let's remind ourselves what these actually are. So we have openness is what stands for the imaginations and feelings and actions of ideas. The low score, you're practical or conventional, prefers routine. The high score of openness, curious, wide range of interest and independent. And then we have conscientiousness. Okay, on the low score, you're impulsive, careless, and disorganized. But on the high score, you are hardworking, dependable, and organized. And who would not want to have an employee whose characteristics would be described that way? Then there's extroversion, quiet, reserved, withdrawn on the low end. On the high end, outgoing, warm, seeks adventure. We have agreeableness. On the low end, critical, uncooperative, suspicious. On the high end, helpful, trusting, empathetic. Then we have neuroticism. On the low end, calm, even-tempered, and secure. And on the high end, anxious, unhappy, prone to negative emotions. So by looking at personality traits, and here are the big five, we see that there are some relationships to satisfaction, performance, and turnover, particularly the ones which we've seen before, particularly conscientiousness. Your predisposition to be satisfied. Well, we can look at things like the interest inventory, the life satisfaction measure, core self-evaluations, like we just saw with self-esteem, locus of control or affectivity, and job satisfaction history. How you have been satisfied previously may be a great determiner of how you will be satisfied in the future. So the international differences in percentages of employees satisfied with their jobs. We see Denmark being the most satisfied, and we are is one of the top lists here. The United States is near the bottom of the most satisfied list at 71%. And you can see over here the least satisfied we have Japan leading the group and Turkey being the tops of the least satisfied group. So what this indicates is not only do we see individuals that may have levels of job satisfaction that are inherent to their individuality, we see it also with nations and the nation's particular culture, where employees tend to be more or less satisfied based on their predispositions. Now let's look at discrepancy theories. Have the employee's expectation been met? Like a realistic job preview being provided. Is the employee a good fit with the vocation that they're in, the job they have, the organization they're with, and with the coworkers and supervisors they must work with? Have the employee's needs, values, and wants been met? By example, by Maslow's needs hierarchy, or ERG theory, or two-factor theory. So obviously what the implication here is if we don't have these things met, then we'll tend to see some level of dissatisfaction potentially. So let's look at person to organization fit. We have employee fit with organization, group, supervisor, or job. And we have the attitude or behavior to the left, satisfaction, commitment, performance, turnover intent, absenteeism. So what we see with the results here, fitting with the organization has a strong relationship to commitment. Not fitting with the organization has a tendency for turnover intent, and for absenteeism. Fit with the group leads to more satisfaction, similar to what we see with fit with the organization with the 0.44. Supervisor, fitting with the supervisor, employee fit with supervisor, we see 0.44 with satisfaction. But look at the number for fitting with the job itself. The satisfaction level is 0.56 there, the highest. So again, we look at commitment, similar numbers when it comes to the job, 0.47, but greater with the organization. So what this indicates is it tells us again that the person and their particular characteristics, their identity, the things that they bring with them to the organization will determine how well they may fit with the various groups, with the organization as a whole, the group, their supervisor, and their job. And we can see that those individual differences that they bring and the fit with these entities does have some sort of impact on attitudes and behavior. Now, recall Maslow's need hierarchy. We've covered this a couple of times already, but the basic idea again is that we have basic biological needs that must be met first, then we meet safety needs, then we meet social needs, so on and so forth, all the way up to self-actualization needs. So the idea here is if your needs are being met by some way with being with a particular organization, if needs are being met, then you tend to be more satisfied. You tend not to have issue with what's going on. So that is what the needs hierarchy tends to suggest. The other discrepancy, this discrepancy theory like ERG, existence, relatedness, and growth needs can again be tied and related to what we just saw when it comes to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But again, we want to have positions and situations where we're working where certain needs are being met, like existence, relatedness, and growth needs. Again, when these things tend to be being met to some extent, at some level, then we tend to see some degree of satisfaction, or at least we would think so. Now, looking at the two-factor theory, where they sort of break it down, we look at motivators and hygiene factors. Okay, so remember with motivators, things that are leading to responsibility, challenge, and job control, these are things that increase job satisfaction. Whereas poor hygiene factors like pay, benefits, and coworkers tend to decrease job satisfaction. Then we look at job facets. Are there are the tasks enjoyable? The tasks for a job enjoyable? Do the employees enjoy working with their supervisors and coworkers? Are coworkers outwardly unhappy? So these things all come to make up facets of job satisfaction. So looking at what Paul Spector did, looking at the 9 facets of job satisfaction, just to give you a little bit of an idea here, we can see things like pay, promotion, supervision, co-workers, nature of work, communication. All these are potential facets of what can lead to some level or degree of job satisfaction. So the nature of the work could be such that it plays a role in you being satisfied with your particular type of job. Give you an example. What if you were in total control of your work schedule? What if you worked based on deadlines and whatever you did day to day, no one really cared about? You could be at home, you could be at the spa, as long as you met the deadline that they set for you. So that could be very satisfying to some individuals. So the idea is that we look at these facets of the job that may be satisfying to you, and it leads to job satisfaction. Are rewards and resources given equitably? So we're looking at equity theory here. We have components of inputs and outputs, and then possible situations of being under, over, or getting equal payment. So the balance or imbalance of rewards, if it's in inequitable rewards, meaning that you're putting in more than what you're getting out of it, again, we see dissatisfaction, reduced output, departure from organization. So the idea is that when you do not believe that you are getting what you are owed, you tend to be dissatisfied. So you have lower job satisfaction. But if you are getting what you are putting into the organization, you tend to get equitable rewards. So you continue at the same level of output. And as we stated before, if you get more than equitable rewards, meaning you put in a little bit amount, but you get much more back, then you tend to change the possible situation by doing harder work, working harder, for example. Then the concept of organizational justice. Distributive justice is the perceived fairness of the decisions made in an organization. The fairness of how decisions are made. Procedural justice, perceived fairness of the methods used by an organization to make decisions. Interactional justice, perceived fairness of the interpersonal treatment the employees receive in an organization. So when someone is at an organization, part of it, a member of an organization, they see justice from different perspectives. They see justice from a distributive perspective, meaning again, is it fair how the decisions are made in an organization, or is it mysterious? When someone gets that promotion and you didn't even know there was an opening for a job, will you see that as just? Most likely not. So organizations can be perceived in a variety of levels about how they do things and how fair it looks when it comes to the decisions made in an organization, and making sure that they at least are perceived fair. Now, I'll make this statement somewhat jaded, but I remember one of my leaders telling me this at one point. Sometimes it's better to look fair than to be fair. Okay, well, that meaning is that sometimes you need to make sure that your systems do pass the face test, that they are fair as they can be for decisions to be made. Correlations with perceptions of justice. So if you have procedural justice, what tends to impact that? Well, your level of job satisfaction. So we see a strong correlation there with 0.62 and job satisfaction with procedural justice. All right, same with distributive justice, but not as much. We also see organizational commitment goes up, and trust as well. With distributive justice, we see the same thing with organizational commitment and trust. So procedural justice, ensuring that the fairness of the methods used by an organization to make decisions is very important. Is very important to one's sense of having a job satisfied and having organizational commitment to that organization. So here we're saying it's not just the individual and their predispositions. It's going to be, to some extent, too, what the organization is doing and how they're doing it. Is there a chance for growth and challenge? Another aspect. We have enriched jobs, where we have a variety of skills needed. Employee completes the entire task, so they have the idea of completion. Tasks have meaning. Employee has input and control. Employee receives feedback. And some of the methods that can be employed is with job rotation, job enlargement, and job enrichment. So let's look at job enrichment here, the benefits of it. When you enrich a job to give it these things, a variety of skills and the ability to complete entire tasks and things of that nature, we see individual growth, more self-actualization, as well as, again, job satisfaction. Organizationally speaking, intrinsically motivated employees, okay, so they are internally motivated there. better employee performance, less absenteeism and turnover, and fewer grievances. And society as a whole, full use of human resources. When you live up to your potential to optimize yourself, and more effective organizations also do result. So, increasing job satisfaction. Well, what we've gone through here is that there's a lot of ways that we can do that. But here are some. Hire satisfied employees. Now, that sounds very simple, but again, some people tend to be more satisfied than others. So, hire satisfied employees. Eliminate dissatisfiers. Express appreciation and provide proper feedback. Increase opportunities to socialize. Hold special events and friendly competitions. Increase humor. Have surprises. Assign the right tasks to the right people. So, what do we mean by hire the satisfied employees? Test for satisfaction potential with interest inventory, with core self-evaluation, as well as with satisfaction history. Again, you've heard of this before, I'm quite sure. The best predictor of future performance or behavior is past performance or behavior. So if they've been satisfied in the past, they'll most likely be satisfied in the future. All right. So we want to test for satisfaction potential. We also want to provide a realistic job preview. The last thing you want to do is sell them a job or position that's all cotton candy and rainbows, and then when they actually get there, it's far from cotton candy and rainbows. So we want to make sure that they are getting into something they have an idea of what it is, that they have basically informed consent to take a particular job because they do know what the job entails. So what we're doing in essence is we're looking for a person organization fit. Does this person fit into your organization? Again, we saw the fit data earlier. Let's suggest that that may be a good way to go too. Organizations are different. They have their different cultures, their different ways of doing things. And so if you do have a fit score for one person that is higher than the other person, you may want to go with the one with the fit, because that too leads to some very positive outcomes that we saw previously. Eliminate dissatisfier. So dissatisfiers are going to be things like conflict, interpersonal conflict with peers, supervisors, and customers. Anytime you are working with anyone, there's going to be some personality conflict at times because we're different people. We have different ideas. At best, the conflict may be friendly conflict that may make ideas better as you debate them around the conference room table or something of that nature. But we want to make sure that the interpersonal conflict that exists is something that can be eliminated when it's at the personal level. So we don't want those people rubbing each other the wrong way. So we want to try to make a sort of a conflict, interpersonal conflict-free work environment to a strong degree, so that we can eliminate these things which tend to dissatisfy people. Inequity, low pay, job security, poor working conditions, work schedule issues. As we try to and are successful at eliminating these types of dissatisfiers, then we will start to see a greater growth, not only in employee satisfaction, but in commitment to the organization as well. Hold special events and friendly competitions, casual or spirit days, increase socialization through parties, picnics, and socials. Hold fun contests, celebrate birthday and special occasions, and encourage humor. Express appreciation and provide proper feedback. Liberal use of praise and thanks, positive feedback, service, and performance awards. I remember when I was working in Michigan that sometimes we receive what they refer to as bonus bucks. When you get an attaboy or an attagirl from one of the clients or one of the bosses in our organization, they would give you $50. It would just be a little cutout color funny money, but the $50 would show up in your account. So it was something too that they would do just to make sure motive people were being recognized for the success that they bring the organization, as well as giving them certificates of appreciation as well. So sometimes these little things can be very, very good at connecting people, making them feel part of something, and making them much more satisfied. And of course, the opportunity to socialize. I could not tell you how many company picnics and lunches I've been to, lunches for the department, for our group, our unit, or for the school, or for the corporation at large. This is a way to get to see colleagues that you don't normally interact with, as well as bosses in a different light. Yeah, sometimes bosses have families. Wow, go figure that. But the idea is that these things do tend to break some barriers down, open up some opportunities for better relationships with our colleagues at work. Hold special events and friendly competitions. Increase humor, bulletin boards with humor, attach cartoons to boring memos, and so on and so forth. But again, in this day and age, we need to be very cautious at times too. That sometimes humor can be a little bit biting and cannot always be taken the same way by everyone that may see the cartoon attached to the memo. So be very, very cautious when you use humor and don't go far to humor that may be denigrating or negative or have a negative connotation about any particular people or group. Have surprises. Order lunch for everyone. Let everyone leave an hour early. This has happened too to me a couple of times as well. And it can be a really great surprise. So these are things too that leadership, supervisors, they will do from time to time to just keep things kind of fresh, that they appreciate it. Now, leaving early on a Friday is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And employers know that, and that's why that usually happens usually on a Friday, oftentimes, at least in my experience. Assign the right tasks to the right people. People have different interests. People have different skills. Knowing what their interests are, knowing what their skills are, this is one of the key things for this particular assignment task. You have to know these people. You have to know what their interests and skills are, so that you know someone who has experience with XYZ will probably be a good idea to assign them to that particular task force or that XYZ committee. So this too helps people to be satisfied. Imagine if you would, if you have a certain skill level and XYZ, and you realize there's an XYZ committee and you're not on it. Man, that's going to be a blow to your ego. You will tend to be a little bit dissatisfied that your skills are not being recognized. So organizations need to be aware again of interests and skills and assign the right people to the right tasks where it makes sense and it is logical. There are lots of ways that we can measure job satisfaction. The FACES scale, JDI, the Minnesota Satisfaction Questionnaire, Job in General scale, NIGI Satisfaction scale, and we can do custom designed inventories as well. We see that there are other surveys to measure commitment, such as Allen Meyer survey, organizational commitment questionnaire, and the organizational commitment scale. All of these scales, are way beyond what we want to talk about here to any great detail. But these are the tools that IO professionals and OD professionals will utilize to try to assess what the feelings are, how committed people are to their organization, to their group, to their unit, to their team, and how satisfied they are. So by doing this, we get a really good idea of the organization, and in a sense, the health of an organization as well. So we then can sort of predict other factors that would be of interest to us as well. For example, how does your level of commitment and level of satisfaction overall impact such things as your absenteeism, for example, at your particular organization? So absenteeism, as we all know, is basically you not showing up for work, not showing up for work. You are absent. And when someone is absent, it can be a very, very costly endeavor to do the work of that employee who is currently not there. Someone has to do it, or customers are not getting serviced somehow. So the international differences, the absenteeism rate by percentage here, we can see the absenteeism rate here, 1.6 in Canada, United Kingdom 3.2, Belgium 6.3, the Netherlands 7.8. Now, we tend to be in the United States, I'm not quite sure if you are aware of this, we do tend to be a little bit more like workaholics. One of the things that I may have mentioned before, if I haven't mentioned it now, as a culture, we really identify ourselves with our work, our career. Our whole identity usually is wrapped up there. So we tend to be very much workaholics compared to the rest of the world. Probably one of the reasons that we don't show up here in great numbers here by way of absenteeism rate. Reasons for missing work. There are a variety of reasons for missing work. Here we have the personal needs, stress, family issues, a sense of entitlement. So when we do collect data, sometimes if we can, we collect as to why they are not there. Illness is a key one there. And so illness seems to be the main reason, or at least a reported illness, as to why people are not at work. Stress, again, we've heard of the term a stress day, simply because you are usually mentally exhausted and run down physically and just need a day to recharge. To try to prevent you being out longer periods of time due to an illness. So, why employees are absent? No consequences for attending or missing work. We see they can be absent when there are no consequences. Illness and personal problems we saw was one of the leading causes there. And there are going to be individual differences as well as other unique events as to why they may not be absent. I mean, why they may be absent from work. Increasing attendance by having consequences for missing work. Rewards for attending. Financial incentives, well pay, games, financial bonuses, paid time off, recognition programs. So we could sweeten the pot by making it something that you get something for being at work. And then you can make it so that you get disciplined for not attending. And of course, regardless of what you're doing, if you're going to be offering rewards for attending and discipline people for not attending, you must have a clear policy of such things and decent and accurate record keeping. Increasing attendance by reducing employee stress. Stress is something that we cannot avoid. Very stressful situations, however, can be particularly dangerous to the employee, the unit, the organization as a whole. So we try to eliminate stress where we can. But we don't want to have a particular position that is overloaded with too much stuff coming in and not enough time for that individual to process it. So you can become overloaded. And of course, we have stress by way of conflict that one may have with peers at work. It could be conflict about how to process certain things and what secrets to do something in, or it could be something more personal. And that conflict can also be with supervisors. You can have some issues of stress. Another type of stress, believe it or not, is that you have nothing to do. You are bored out of your mind, that the job is not challenging enough, and you're sitting most of the time just twiddling your thumbs, which can be very problematic as well. And of course, stress can lead ultimately to having some safety issues because people, when they're too stressed, under distress, they can lose focus, and that can be particularly dangerous, particularly if they're working in a manufacturing type facility. So we need to understand that we can increase attendance by reducing certain areas where there may be greater employee stress. Finding some way so that a particular position is not going to be overloaded with so many tasks and communication coming in at one given time, splitting that job up into two or something of that nature to reduce the stress for that particular position. Increasing attendance by reducing illness. If we could do that, that would be a good one, because we saw the COB indicated that one of the greatest reasons for not being at work was illness. So if we could do something, that'd be great. Some types of ways to address that are wellness programs. Okay, wellness programs basically being very proactive with their employees, trying to make sure they're not smoking, they're eating healthy, they're getting exercise. They may even put out some space at their facility so they can work out in the middle of the day. Do all these types of things to ensure that the employees of their organization are as healthy as possible. So let's look at wellness programs and the percent of them being offered. Some form of wellness program is being offered by 62% of organizations. We have on-site flu vaccinations, on-site health screening programs for 47%. The flu vaccinations were 58% offer that. 42% offer smoking cessation programs. Weight loss programs by 32%. On-site fitness center 20%, and stress reduction programs 3%. And most likely, these numbers are probably going to grow. This was collected in 2014. So being able to get some control over the absenteeism due to illness would be a very important as well as cost-effective thing to do for an organization, because they'll lose a lot more than they would gain uh, by having that employee being out. They're not making money, okay, and the money they could spend on a wellness program could still be very, very cost-effective by getting those employees to be much, much healthier. Turnover. Why do employees leave? Well, we have unavoidable reasons: school ends, job transfer, illness, or family issues. We have advancement to more responsibilities or better pay. We could have the one here being unmet needs, meaning that the job did not do anything for that particular person. It didn't meet the needs that the person had, therefore the needs were unmet, and they leave. They can also escape from people. It could be management individuals, co-workers, or even customers. The working conditions could have been bad. It could have been too much stress for the job. And then they had expectations that weren't met either, by the way of the organization, the job, or their particular career, and therefore they decide to leave. Now, why are your employees leaving? This is really important for you to find this out. When people are leaving your organization, especially if there is a trend and people seem to be lining up to leave, you really need to find out why this is happening. That is why they conduct exit interviews with the people who are leaving, so that they can get an opportunity to ask them questions that they may not have felt comfortable as answering when they were employees with the organization, but now they're leaving, going someplace else. So they want to get the nitty gritty, so to speak, as to what's going on. Why did you make this decision to leave us? They also want to have them complete attitude surveys, so this information too can be put in the box, so to speak, so that it can be part of the picture as to understanding why they have a particular type of turnover rate, as well as conduct salary surveys of pay, benefits, and time off. So we see that these are the things that can be done to get some idea as to why people are leaving. With the whole idea is that you don't want people to leave your organization. If you've hired them, that meant that you wanted them at one point, and they are fulfilling certain needs that you have that need to be met as an organization. And when someone leaves, you lose that slot, that person in that slot. You lose that person in that slot, then things don't get done. Someone has to cover, and there are going to be costs, direct and hidden costs, to this. So the cost of turnover, visible cost per hire. Well, we have advertising charges, agency fees, referral bonuses, staff time and benefits, processing applications, interviewing people, overhead, travel costs for staff and applicants, relocation costs, and miscellaneous costs. It is a costly endeavor when someone quits. Now that you have an empty slot that needs to be filled. The cost of turnover, hidden costs, loss of productivity. Employee leaving, other employees must fill that spot up. There's going to be a vacant position, and for a new employee, they may not really have the productivity that you require for them for some time. There'll be inefficiency, overtime, and training costs. These things also result from someone leaving the job. So these are turnover costs. Not all of them are going to be so easily to recognize, but these things cost money. So when somebody leaves, the organization does fill it. The industry norms, estimating the cost of turnover. A rate is 1.4% per month, and the cost is 1.5 times salary. We go to this to look at advantage hiring and UX EDU to look at different types of ways that we could calculate some of this information. But let's look at this a little bit more closely. So last year, look at the financial savings from turnover reduction. Last year, we had 5 employees leave each month, 60 per year. Average salary is $20,000. So the cost of turnover is 60 times 20,000 times 1.5 equal 1.8 million. That is their cost for those people who left. $1.8 million. This year, 4 employees leave each month as opposed to 5. So we reduced it, okay, from 4 employees each month to 4 employees each month from 5 employees each month. So we have 48 per year. The average salary, $20,000 again. Cost of turnover is 48 times 20,000 times 1.5 equal 1.444. We do the subtraction number there. Here, we save $360,000 saved through reducing the turnover. So, we don't want people to leave. When people leave, it costs money, directly as well as indirectly. And we want to try to avoid that at all possible costs. Reducing turnover compensation issues, match the market, pay what people are worth, use job evaluation to ensure internal equity, meaning that people within the organization are getting paid what they're worth and there's no imbalance within your system. Offer retention and tenure bonuses. Tenure bonuses are kind of cool. The idea is that if you've been with an organization for 10 years, maybe they'll give you a bump in pay or one-time shot of a bonus or something of that nature. So these are the types of things that I know personally where people would say, I got to hang in here for a couple more years so I can get my tenure bonus. So the idea is that we do things to try to reduce that turnover because turnover, again, is a very costly thing to go through. Increasing salary and benefits will only work if employees are leaving due to low compensation or benefits. The turnover rate is high, and the salary increase will be a meaningful amount. Reducing turnover selection issues. You need to conduct realistic job previews. You need to look for personal organization fit, and you need to study predictors of people who leave. So what this is basically saying is like a little bit of a mini research project here. First, when they are going through the hiring phase, you need to make sure that people who are the candidates for these positions are receiving a realistic job preview. That they're being told what it's going to be like. The hours, the overtime, the travel, all should be out there on the table. Then you want to see if that person, that candidate, seems to have the same characteristics or profiles that you have within your organization. Will they fit? So you're looking for the person organization fit. Of course, you got to be cautious because obviously, if you're trying to duplicate who you already have there, there could be some diversity issues that may pop up there. But you are looking for person organization fit. Do they fit in this organization? And then you want to look at the people who do leave. Do they follow a certain type of trend, a certain profile? Do they have certain characteristics? Were they working in a particular unit or division? Had similar bosses? Whatever the case may be, you want to study those predictors of people who leave. Reducing turnover organizational issues. Provide training, show appreciation, mediate conflicts when they appear, meet people needs and meet employee needs such as safety, social, and growth. Strategic use of benefits to attract and retain applicants by providing health care for domestic partners, daycare benefits, meal benefits, paid time off, flexible schedules, tuition, and books. You can attract and retain gay employees, dual career families and parents on public assistance, students and retirees, young people, homemakers and parents, as well as students. This is all done in order not only to get a more diverse workforce, but to make sure that your doors are open for employees who fit certain categories that may be great employees if they have the skill set. That's the key thing here. If they have the skill set and the background to do these jobs, where do you get them from really doesn't matter as much as long as you can get them, attract them, and retain them. Uh, Especially during times when organizations are really desperately looking for people because they have too many slots and not enough people to fill them. It's going to be a buyer's market or an employees market where they can demand higher salaries and greater benefits. And some of the better organizations these days are fully aware that to be truly competitive, they must be providing a lot for their employees. And usually, if all things being equal, if they provide a lot to their employees, the employees provide a lot to their organization.